Jeremiah chapter 3. And there in Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 15, it says, "Then I will give you shepherds after my heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding." I want to put a tag on this text, and for a few moments with your prayers, I want to talk about you're the chosen one, and flowers don't pick themselves. You are the chosen one, and flowers don't pick themselves. How do you stay sane in a sick world? This world is sick. Martin King, in his very last speech in Memphis, Tennessee, a line that is lamentable but often lost, King declared, "The nation is sick." The very next day, he was assassinated, his life snuffed out from him at the age of 39, because we are in a sick nation and a crazy world. Crazy, I think that's appropriate. After all, Harry Emerson Fosdick, he talked about the fact that the word crazy comes from a French word that means broken. We are in a world that is broken, in a nation that is sick. How do you stay sane, mentally healthy in a sick and crazy world? You didn't feel that, so I guess I'll bring Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five to the stand, and they will testify. It's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Ha, 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 ha. Like a jungle, sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. And then Grandmaster said, "Don't push me, cause I'm close to the..." Y'all ain't been in church all your life, have you? Grandmaster Flash, in a real sense, is rapping about the reality that the nation is sick and the world is broken. I think that Paul Lawrence Dunbar put it poetically when he proclaimed, "A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile but an hour to weep in, a pint of joy to a peck of trouble, never a laugh but the moans come double, and that's life. I'm still not coming through." A few years ago in New York Harbor, my attention was arrested by a story of a cruise ship. Watch this, Pastor G. A cruise ship was set to disembark, to leave rather, New York City Harbor, and as it is leaving the harbor, out of nowhere, a wind gust of 115 miles per hour, it hit that ship, and when it hit that ship, the structure was tilted. Needless to say, the passengers on the ship, they lost their balance. Some fell without question, and they were hurt in the process. Others found themselves trying to get back up, but they could not get back up because the wind was so strong, it left the ship tilted there in New York Harbor. Their challenge was to stand up straight, regain their balance in a structure that was tilted. I didn't say that right because you missed your shout. Their challenge was they had already been shocked by something that they did not see coming. They already found themselves hurt, but now they have to somehow stand up straight on a structure that is crooked. I'm still not coming through, but hopefully you get what I'm saying, because you understand that oftentimes when we deal with many of the ills and injustices that characterize this nation, the ills, watch this, if we are not careful, we will limit them to the color of someone's skin. We will talk about white people doing this and black people doing that, and really the issue has not something to do with individuals as much as it has to do with institutions. I'm still not coming through. It has to do with structures. There it is, structural injustice, systemic injustice. Why? Because structures, please don't miss this, are designed to produce certain outcomes. It's not an accident that you find that in many instances, black people are at the bottom of most positive statistics and at the top of many negative stats. It's not because we are less than and not equal to. It's because structures are set up. Systems are created to produce certain outcomes. And so as a consequence, we're on a structure that is tilted, and our challenge since we've been in this country has somehow been to stand up straight on a structure that is crooked. And yet God has been so good to us that somehow we've been able to get our equilibrium. And I guess I'll quote Tupac Shakur, because Tupac wrote a poem, and the poem, it's gonna shout you, is called A Rose That Grew From Concrete. I'm about to run out of here, because understand, roses are supposed to grow in an environment that is characterized by a garden with fertilizer and soil. But Tupac came across a rose in the heart of the hood in Oakland, California, and the rose, watch this, was able to bust through some concrete and blossom, because the rose said that I began as a seed, and what God placed in me was greater than the structure that was trying to keep me from being who I am. And all I'm trying to say, some of y'all are looking holy and sedate right now, but if you know what God has done for you, a lot of you have a testimony. I'm that rose that grew from concrete. There is no explanation for you being as successful as you are. There is no explanation for the doors that you have walked through that you did not even knock on. There is no explanation when you think about the family that you came from, and then here you are doing all that you've done. It's because God is still using roses to break through concrete and do the impossible. I'm simply trying to say it's a sick world, and yet we maintain our mental health. It's a sick world, and yet God has given us the strength to keep on standing. How does it work? I'll make it real plain. Jesus in Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38 blows my mind, because the text lets us know he sees the masses, the multitude. They are helpless and they are harried. And the book lets us know that Jesus says they were sheep without a shepherd. That's what Jesus says. Don't miss your shout. Jesus says the multitude is messed up, but it's not their fault. The multitude is struggling, but don't blame them. They have a shepherd issue. They are sheep without a shepherd. Let me help you right quick, because Jesus was issuing an indictment on the leadership in the nation of Israel. He was issuing a critique of the political leadership in Rome. And Jesus said the reason the people are struggling and suffering is because of poor leadership. And that sent me back to Jeremiah chapter 3, because Jeremiah, look, you know, is writing this tear-stained treatise. He is our weeping word bearer, and Jeremiah, the book lets us know, is upset because the people of God have turned their backs on God, and as a consequence, God is done. God is fed up. But then Jeremiah gives us a word of hope, because Jeremiah says, God finally said, all right, I'm going to give you shepherds after my own heart, and they're going to feed you with wisdom, with knowledge, and understanding. Y'all missed your shout right there. Because God is so good that whenever life is going bad and systems and structures are tilted to the disadvantage of the disadvantage, God has a way of raising up the right leaders at the right time who do the right thing when life has gone wrong. Preach, Freddie Haynes. I'm about to, because y'all, it hit me. That's just like God. Whenever there is a need for liberating leadership, God raises up a Moses. Whenever there is chaos in the country, God raises up a David. Whenever there is economic misfortune, God will raise up a Joseph. Whenever there is an othering of the oppressed, God will raise up a Queen Esther. God is so good that God raises up leaders at the right time when life has gone so wrong. Y'all still didn't shout. I'll bring you up to date. God is so good that whenever there is oppressive slavery, God will raise up a Frederick Douglass, a Harriet Tubman, a Sojourner Truth. God will raise up a William Lloyd Garrison. God, when there is Jim and Jane Crow apartheid, will raise up a W.E.B. Du Bois, a Paul Robeson, a Thurgood Marshall, a Charles Hamilton Houston. When there is lynching in the land, God will raise up an Ida Bell Wales. Whenever there is segregation on the buses, God will make sure that Rosa Parks says, I ain't taking this no more. God is so good. God can raise up a Martin. God can raise up a Marcus. God can raise up a Medgar. God can raise up a Malcolm. God is in the business of raising up leaders at just the right time. And when life has gone wrong, and when there was a community that was struggling in this part of North Carolina, God touched a brother who was pastoring in Philadelphia and said, I need to bring you down to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, because I've got a work for you to do that has been uniquely tailored for you and your personality. And I simply came to say to you, Pastor G, that God's hand is on you. You are the chosen one, and flowers don't pick themselves. Now, let me walk lightly and carefully here, because my subject is fly. Yes, it is. But it's not original with me. I wish I could take credit for my subject. And the author of my subject, he's having a hard time right now, but I can't deny the truth. So I was wondering, should I still preach this? But because he's having a hard time right now. His name is Drake, and Drake has been struggling. It's been rough on Drake recently because Kendrick just wiped him out, just wiped him. They not like us, and squabbling up. And so I've been kind of feeling bad for Drake, and so because I feel bad for him, I'm gonna go ahead and give him his props right now, because he is the one who came up with this luminous line when he said in one of his songs, it's gonna mess you up. I'm the chosen one, and flowers don't pick themselves. It messed me up because the imagery is insightful. I'm the chosen one, and flowers don't pick themselves. I hope y'all get that. When God chooses you, when God puts God's hand on you, folk may get upset and jealous, but why they tripping on you when God is the one who made the choice? God is the one that said, I've got something with your name on it, and only you can handle what I have for you, and so you're the chosen one. But here's the shout, Sister G, and that is flowers don't pick themselves. Y'all missed your shout right there. Flowers don't pick themselves. When you go to a florist, they have flowers, don't they? And the flowers, watch this, are arranged by the florist. But hold on, the flowers have a testimony, because the flowers say, as good as I look right now, I didn't start out like this. As a matter of fact, if you want to follow me in my testimony, you got to go back to the dirt, because I was put in dirt. Other folk thought I was buried, but they didn't know I was a seed seed. And so seeds do their best work in dirt. Y'all missed your shout right there, because some of y'all got a dirty background, but don't you let nobody judge you because of the dirt in your background. God is so good that your testimony is you did your best work in dirt, and God raised you up and used the dirt that was meant to bury you to put nutrients in you, to put what you needed in you to become what God has called you to become. And so on this 25th anniversary of phenomenal pastoral leadership, I just want to say, Pastor G, you the chosen one, man, and flowers don't pick themselves. I like that. I like that. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Give me a few and I'll be through. Number one, it simply means, I'm about to shout right here, when you're the chosen one, flowers don't pick themselves. This is going to shout you right here. God is so good that God has a way. Oh, this is good right here. Please don't miss this. God is so good that God has a way of picking on purpose leaders that God raises up to open the door to a new era of possibilities that would not have come had that leader not been raised up. Preach, I just did. Here it is, here it is. And then God will give you shepherds. Stop right there. Then God will give. Oh, that's good right there. I knew I was preaching for Pastor G, and Sister G would be in the house, and now I know the bishop is here, so I had to do my homework. And etymologically, I unpacked the word give in the original Hebrew language. It messed me up. It's used in 3 different contexts, the word give in the Hebrew. Then I will give you shepherds. Give. Watch what God does. When God gives, number one, it's used in the context of a gift that is given. And I think that's real appropriate because Pastor G has been a gift to this community. Pastor G has been a gift to this state, this nation, this world. Pastor G is a gift. You always know what someone thinks about you by the quality of the gift that they give you. If they don't think much about you, the gift is going to reflect that. But if they give you something that is show enough, that lets you know they got major love for you. Y'all got to feel real loved by God when you think about the gift that God gave you in Pastor G. I'm not even done. Not only had it to do with a gift, but it also had to do, then I will give you. It had to do, watch this. This is so good right here. It had to do with forming, making, constituting. God made Abraham the father of a nation. But you do know Abraham went through vicissitudes, ups and downs, and he went through a whole lot to become the father of a nation. It didn't just happen automatically. Abraham had to go through some stuff, and I see Pastor G, and man, you a bad brother. The beard is always tight and right. The specs look real good. You a cool brother, Doc. But when I think about this ministry, I know that behind the glamour there is always a lot of grind. Behind what we see on the outside, there's a whole lot of struggle behind that. That's why, my sisters and brothers, you can't get jealous over someone else's success. You don't know the price they had to pay to get where they are. You don't know the hell they had to overcome to be where they are. There's a price that is paid. I ain't coming through like I need to. Can I shout you right quick? Here it is. I don't cook much, but when I do, I throw down. One of my favorite dishes is what? Sauteed crab meat. O-M to the Jeezy. It is, oh my God, it is good. I'm having flashbacks right now over the last time I made my sauteed crab meat. Can I give it to you how that thing went down? I made that crab meat. First of all, of course, I had to put it in the saucepan that was already filled with the appropriate spices and oil and butter, and then it was preheated. It was preheated, and then I put the crab meat in the preheated saucepan, and it had spices and butter and oil. But right before I put it in, and this happened, the crab meat looked up at me, and the crab meat said, "Are you about to put me in that hot stuff right there that's already preheated?" I said, "How you gonna talk? You crab meat, you are inanimate." And the crab meat said, Shakespeare said, there are sermons in stones. Jesus said, if these hold their peace, rocks will cry out. So if sermons can come from stones, and if rocks can rejoice, you about to get some Christology from crab meat. I said, all right, crab meat, let's talk right quick. And the crab meat said, so for real, Freddie, you gonna put me in that hot stuff right there that is already preheated? The least you could do is let me get in first and then turn the heat on. You're putting me in some stuff that's already on fire. Why are you doing that to me? I said, because it's a part of the recipe. There's a recipe for your destiny. You're on the way to becoming something more than what you are right now, but you can't become more unless I put you in something that's already hot. Y'all miss your shout because some of y'all been trying to figure out why God threw you into some stuff that you really didn't want to be in. God says, I've got a recipe for your destiny. All things work together for good to those that love God and are called according to God. I'm not even done. That crab kept talking and said, all right, but I need to know it's preheated. How long are you going to keep me in here? I said, I'm going to keep you in just long enough. But what if it burns me? If it burns you, you belong to me. I paid for you. Do you actually think I'm going to burn you when I paid a price for you? Do you think I'm going to burn you when you belong to me? If I burn you, it's going to make me look bad. If I burn you, my name is at stake. So I know just how much heat you can take. I know just how much heat is going to take to make you what you're supposed to become. Here's your shout right here. God is so good that we rejoice in tribulation, because tribulation produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope, and hope will never disappoint. I'm just trying to let you know God is constituting. Wait, I'm not even done, because the text also says, I will give you. Give also was not only a gift and constituting, but give, watch this, had to do with planting on purpose. Okay. Planting on purpose. I had no idea. I had no idea till I got here tonight, and your pastor shared with me his testimony of how he came to Rocky Mount, North Carolina from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Rocky Mount, North Carolina. That's not usually how folk move around in this thing called ministry. And he happened to be in Soweto, South Africa, doing a revival, and God ordered his steps and stops. And before you know it, God got in his ear, and God spoke and revealed that your next stop is Rocky Mount, North Carolina, because God was planting him here on purpose. I'm not coming through. I'll make it real plain. He's a Morehouse man. He can feel this right here. Check this out, Doc. I was in Oklahoma City preaching years ago, and when I landed, I discovered it's an old school church. Deacon picks me up, and when the deacon picks me up, he's not like my security man here at this great church. He's an old school deacon. Doc, he's old school, and so he talks old school, and I'm a young preacher, and so when I get in the car, he says, welcome, young preacher, to an old school church. You a young preacher, this is an old school church. We are historic. I said, that's awesome, Doc. I'm honored to be here. He said, you know how historic we are? Martin Luther King Jr. applied to be our pastor, and we turned him down. Now, I'm like, why did you say that out loud? And honestly, I didn't say that out loud, but I'm thinking there's something wrong with him for admitting that his church had the opportunity in 1953 to call Martin Luther King Jr. as its pastor, and instead they called someone else whose name they don't even remember right now, and he's bragging, he's saying, we turned down Dr. King. That tells you what a historic church we are. And so I just sit there silently because I've been taught to respect my elders, and I'm really questioning why God sent me to preach a revival at this church that evidently is crazy, and I don't want to spend another day here. And then he says, I know what you're thinking. Why would I brag that we turned down Dr. King? I said, well, it is kind of strange that you would bring that up as a bragging point. His response made me shout. He said, I'm glad we turned him down, because if we hadn't turned him down, then he would not have been available to go to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church the next year, 1954. If he had not gone to Dexter in 1954, then he wouldn't have been around in 1955 when Rosa Parks said, I'm not taking this anymore, refused to give up her seat, and then he was appointed as the spokesman for the Montgomery Improvement Association. I'm glad we turned him down, because if we hadn't turned him down, he wouldn't have led the Montgomery bus boycott for 381 days when black folk decided they were no longer going to fund their oppression. They were not going to be complicit and give to institutions that disrespected them, and they exchanged tired feet for tired souls, and they stayed off the buses. I'm glad we turned him down, because if we hadn't turned him down, it would not have catapulted him into national prominence, where he then led the movement in Birmingham in 1963 that led to the passage of the 64 Civil Rights Bill. I'm glad we turned him down, because he wouldn't have led the march from Selma through Bloody Sunday all the way to Montgomery for the passage of the Voting Rights Bill. I'm glad we turned him down, because if we hadn't turned him down, the nation would not have been changed. We turned him down because God was ready to turn up. I'm trying to say, God is so good that God will plant you on purpose where God has you. And when God plants you on purpose, that's when you're ready to blossom. I will give you shepherds. Oh, preach Frederick Haynes. I'm about to. God, I love it. God says, I'll give you shepherds, because leaders lead by loving and save by serving. Thank you. I thought so. That ain't original with me. I got that from Cornel West. Cornel West said, if you're going to lead people, you have to love people. If you're going to save people, you got to serve people. And really, when you think about what shepherds did in biblical antiquity, how they rose early before the flock did, and then they would lead them through the brush, through difficult terrain, to a pasture where they could feed. He would guard and watch them, making sure that they were all counted. He was serving them. And then watch this. Here comes your shout. The shepherd would also fight the wolves. I got to park right there, because a lot of people trip when Pastor G gets engaged in politics. I got to help you right quick, because folk be tripping. They be really tripping. They be straight tripping, boo. And so I'm going to tell you what's happening there. My grandfather was Frederick Douglass Haynes Sr. He pastored historic Third Baptist Church in San Francisco. And when Granddaddy, watched this, was pastoring Third Baptist, he was a social justice activist. As a matter of fact, he hosted Paul Robeson, Martin King, Josephine Baker, W.E.B. Du Bois. I mean, he was the first African American to run, watch this, for county supervisor in San Francisco. And y'all, when he ran, it upset them white folk in San Francisco so bad. Watch what happened. One of his deacons was at the post office, Pastor G. And when the deacon was at the post office, the deacon or the person working the post office looked at him and said, do you go to that N-word Haynes' church? And the deacon said, my pastor is Frederick Douglass Haynes Sr., if that's who you're asking about. He said, well, you ought to tell him not to get in politics because shepherds are to feed the flock. And the deacon clapped back. Our pastor is a good shepherd because he feeds the flock and fights the wolves. I'm trying not to shout, but every time I see Pastor G registering people to vote, he's fighting the wolves. When I see Pastor G out on the front lines fighting for justice, he's fighting the wolves. But oh, hallelujah, on Sunday morning up in here, on Tuesday night up in here, he's feeding the sheep, because a good shepherd knows how to feed the sheep and fight the wolves. Lead by loving, save by serving. And the text lets us know the shepherds would do just that. And I will give you shepherds after my heart who will lead you or feed you with wisdom and understanding. I'm almost done, but I'm about to shout, because they feed you with wisdom and understanding. And this is the best part. They're shepherds after my heart. After my heart. Good shepherds lead from the inside out. You didn't shout. Another Morehouse man. Since this is Morehouse night, let me go Morehouse. Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman, in his book Meditations of the Heart, has a powerful meditation entitled Living the Outer Life from the Inward Sanctuary. Because that's what we're called to do. Lead the outer life from the inward sanctuary, because we lead our lives not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And when you have a shepherd like Pastor G, God has chosen you. Flowers don't pick themselves. It's because you lead from the inside out. This is a good man with a good heart who leads from the inside out. I got to close and give y'all this, because y'all missing your shout. I didn't go to Morehouse, but I went to now defunct but never dead Bishop College in Dallas. And there at Bishop College in Dallas, Texas, check this out. Going to Bishop College, and my sophomore year, I pledged the fraternity of Jesus, because the Bible says he's Alpha. And so I pledged Jesus's fraternity. He's Alpha. I don't know about the rest of that. I just know he's Alpha. And so I pledged that great fraternity, the Ice Cold Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Oh, hey, yes, yeah, there it is. So I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, and my second semester, sophomore year, I mean, it's on and popping. Pastor G, I ain't gonna lie, that was quite a semester. There is no academic evidence that I was a student in school that semester. I was an alpha neophyte, and I enjoyed it. Okay, let me just, all right. I had a great time. Sister G said, come back. Yeah, I got to come back. And so, but one Saturday, we borrowed my frat brother's car, and we decided to go to the mall, North Park Mall in Dallas. And so we borrowed his car. But there was one thing about his car. It was a hoopty. Now, y'all don't know about hoopty, so I got to tell you how hoopties work. This was a hoopty of a hoopty, in that the only way he could get it to start, it had to have momentum. And so he had to park on a hill, slanted down, or if it was like on a level surface, it meant we had to push before the engine would turn over. So Pastor G, we go out to the mall, and we ain't got no money, so we just going out there to look. And so that's what we did. We went out there to look. And so a part of our looking was the honeys. And so we were in the parking lot on our way to our car, we ran into some sisters from University of North Texas in Denton. And so they said, we're having a party tonight. Would you all come? We said, yeah, cool. They said, how you going to get there? We said, oh, we got a car. And they said, where is it? And so we said, just know we're going to be there. And so they said, well, show us the car. Show us the car. I said, no, we ain't got to show you nothing. We'll be there. Just trust that we're going to be there. So we started walking to the car, and they started following us to the car. And so we decided to throw them off and just walk in a different direction because we didn't want them to see the hoopty. Because North Park, if you've been there, it doesn't have any hills. It's just all flat. So we were going to have to push it into starting. And so I wasn't going to start the car by having it pushed in front of sisters. And so we're going around, so we decide, okay, because they still following us. And so we decide, okay, what we're going to do is just pick out a car and claim it. And so I saw a BMW, and so we went straight to the BMW and said, see, we'll be here tonight in the BMW. They said, get in. And so finally we decided, you know what, car don't make a man. We're going to show them what we driving and show them that we're men of industry. We know how to start a car even when the car ain't supposed to start. So we finally took them to the hoopty, and they fell out laughing. They just fell out laughing. They said, you gonna bring this to Denton tonight? You sure it's gonna make it? And so, you know, they hating all that stuff, just really hating. And so we're like, you know what, this car is gonna start. And about that time, a brother from SMU, Southern Methodist University, pops up, and a brother from SMU says, hey, what's happening? You know, we give up DAP and all that stuff. And then he says this, he says, so we all going to the party, can I catch a ride with y'all tonight? And so I said, man, listen, let me just tell you about this car. This car only makes it on momentum. It can't start unless it has momentum. He said, huh? I said, so we had to show him. And so we pushed it, turned over. And so he said, you know what? This is ridiculous. My dad is a mechanic. He has his own shop. So let's go to my dad's shop, and he's going to see what's wrong with your car. So that's what happened. We go to his dad's shop. We get to the shop. His dad says, what's up, son? He says, these are my frat brothers, and their car only starts with momentum on a hill going down or with the push. And so can you do something about this? Because this is embarrassing. They're my frat brothers. And so what he did, he opens up the hood, and he notices, he said, it's because this cable is loose right here. And y'all, he reconnected the cable, and then he put the hood down, and he said, try it now. That thing turned over. It had power, and y'all, we got in that car, and from that day forward, it didn't require a hill. It didn't require a push. All it required was the ignition turning it. What happened? It had power now because of our relationship with the son of the mechanic. And because of our relationship with the son of the mechanic, the son took us to the father, and the father went under the hood, and the father then did under the hood what was needed for it to have power. All I'm trying to say, this man knows the son, and because he knows the son took him to the father, and the father said, since you are with my son, I'm going to hook you up on the inside. I'm going under the hood, and under the hood is the source of your power transformation. I'm done. But Pastor G, you the chosen one. Flowers don't pick themselves because God has planted you on purpose. God is up to something in your ministry, and we are the fruit of what God is up to. You're the chosen one. And flowers don't pick themselves.